my car is parked where people might come up and ask me for illegal things. So if I turn and talk to somebody and say no or go or anything, that is why. In any case, I thought I would come on because Spirit's been telling me, unfortunately, it is time to wrap up my pretendings of being a pirate, which is fine. I don't really like being a pirate. I prefer to be like Peter Pan or Wendy or things like that. In any case, it's been saying that things are shifting in benevolent ways and that I got my time to have my selfishness and my self righteous indignation. And that now that I have allowed myself to experience those and have not just embraced my shadows, but allowed them to be seen, which is something that I learned. I want to say, let's see, it's been 22 months. So I started learning that probably about 19 ish months ago. The It's like embrace your darkness, as in, like, think about all the beautifulness of the world, right? It is dark in there. And the darkness of the universe, where nebulas are born and, create stars and planets and all sorts of beautiful things. And okay, well, I guess I guess I don't know if we're starting over. Now it says 2 minutes. Okay, if the video is a little choppy, pay closer attention to what does come through, because the signal's being a little bit weird with my phone right now. In any case, we get into this space of like, we can never do any wrong. We can never let anyone see. We might experience jealousy or envy or greed or sloth or disconnection from spirit, right? Or from ourselves. And usually that space is like we get into survival mode and we feel like we don't have power, we don't have social status, we don't have money, we don't have 3D things, that we'll be helpless, which is usually conditioning. It's a lot of that's part of why I go so strongly for kids and for healthier parenting, for empathetic parenting, because it's usually the adults who get like that usually were made to feel powerless when they were children. And that's how we start to heal this stuff. In any case, at that time it was like there was a lot of information coming towards me that was like, I mean, I was doing the right things. It's funny to look back at it, and the phrase that Spirit sent to me is like a series of great decisions, a series of fortunate decisions. And I can look back at pretty much everything I did, and it's like, yeah, like things started in a place of like being, well, it's like it was a progression. Like when things started 22 months ago, what was I in a perfect benevolent place? No, not at all. And now I'm in a place of where it's like, hang on, there's a weird car next to me. In any case, it's funny, the license plate says excellent choice, right? Or the holder on it. And, but that's what I mean. Like, how about that? A series of excellent choices. And as I started to get to the place where I could say, I do have these feelings. I am human. I experience the full spectrum of feelings. Things got a little bit easier. I felt a little bit lighter. But I still was in a place of like, it felt like I didn't want, not that I didn't want anyone to see it. It was like the conditioning of, the whole bullshit of politeness, which I've been talking about. There's a difference between good manners and being polite. Polite is a codependent thing. Polite is bullshit. Good manners, please, thank you. Holding doors, being kind, stuff like that. Reciprocity, beautiful, beautiful, absolutely. Would never put those lessons down. They are wonderful. Though politeness is bullshit. And I was still stuck in a lot of that energy, largely because I was still living with my. You know what? I'm just letting myself go with my former family. Even if I change my mind later, even if that turns into consequences of weirdness. Because here's the thing, if you're with people that cannot allow you to be human, to have moments where you too say, where you speak your heart in ways that don't feel great to them, if they're not in a place where they can forgive that and be people who aren't able to allow other humans to be human, typically aren't able to forgive themselves, and it's the only reason why they get triggered and or hold grudges if you are human, when you are human, right? So lately I've been feeling like, especially being adopted and especially with the way that things went with my former family, being more likely or having hurt my son and attempting to hurt his bird and me, trying to be sneaky and go around and like it's crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like I would ever want to be a part of a family like that. And most of my life, a lot of the shit has been blamed on me. And there's been very little recognition. Even my kids will say, it's fucking your. So I stayed polite because I knew consequences could come to my former family and that they are very polite. And which is, like I said, bullshit. Even the irony is they do not have good manners. Like, and even please and thank you are things that get mixed in, and it's mostly obligation rather than a genuine feeling of gratitude or good manners. So one of the things I called my former adoptive mother out on, like, you sat there and like abusively made me be polite, and you did not do the same. She didn't like hearing that, but that's okay. It was for me to say because it helped me heal and recognize that that was unfair and that it is acceptable for me to feel those feelings. And also to withdraw my efforts in maintaining the politeness. And that is where the lesson is right now. Like, it, I would say, ironically, my former family and most everybody else, like everybody else, the wisest to the, well, I'm going to say the most wise did not. The person that I consider the most wise did not say this, though everybody else who in every community that I've checked in with, and like from top to bottom, the people that you would never trust for advice and the people that you would definitely trust for advice, all of them, they've been in the space of like, if somebody does something that triggers something in your ideology, or they're not giving you the attention that you desire, or they're not apologizing, or they're not doing the things that you feel like make a person a good person, that you're supposed to cut them out. You're supposed to say, nope, you do not get my energy. You do not get my time. You do not get my protection. You do not get this and this and this. And you know what's funny? The only in fact, now that I think about it, it's not just the wisest, but the only other person that's done that is my Rudy Bug, who's not said that. He's not wanted that. In fact, he has actively fought against doing that, even when he's been exhausted and brainwashed and made to believe that that is what he should do. I watched him try to do it, but he doesn't believe that either, because that is not benevolent. And if you're Christian, that is not the Christian way. If you're pagan, it's also, you know, harm none. So, in getting to that space to where I can actually say, you know what? I know that I can do plenty on my own. I don't need to do it on my own. I'm not toxically independent. And I can also look at those people who preach those lessons that they do not practice and say, well, if this is what you feel like a person should do when they are being hurt, disappointed, etc., by the people that should be treating them well, then this is what happens. I will take your advice, you know? And at least I will with the people that are like that. I'm not going to do that with people that are not like that, like kids, like my DM. I will not do that with them. I will do that only with the people that have preached that, especially the people who preach it and do not practice it. And that includes people that they say that they're not involved. They say that they're staying up, but they're still checking in through the gossip vines, you know, and doing their little manipulations that way. Still counts. In any case, since that, since my moment of embracing Mirage, hello, and since that moment of embracing my shadows and saying, you know, just in just a second, Mirage, um, in embracing my shadows and saying, you know what, some of what people say are true. If you ask again, I will say no. I said that you could in a moment. This is my space. My boundary is that you will wait. Thank you. So, in being in the space to embrace my shadows, I can look at what people have said. It reminds me of the rumors song by Lizzo, and it's like she says all the rumors are true, but even she's saying like rumors are typically based on some amount of truth, and it's like one of the things that people often say is that I'm a know-it-all, and the great irony is I know a lot, but you know why I know a lot? Because I don't consider myself a know-it-all. Because if you really know a lot, what you realize is how little you really know about anything. And however, I do know a lot. I've been tested since a child for all sorts of like various different neurodivergences and psychological challenges, and every time they find out what it really is, I'm really fucking smart, like genius level smart. And it is challenging to exist in a world where you do know a lot and you are very conscious and very sane, and that definitely puts me in the know-it-all category. And you know what? I like to know a lot. I like to show off how much I know. And that's where the shadow comes in, right? And I'm also a brat. Like, and I'm a bratty dom on top of that. And a lot of times people want to act like I don't have any sort of shadow side, you know what I mean? Like they want to act like because I choose to be kind and benevolent like 98% of the time that I'm somehow suggesting that I'm better than them, that I don't have shadows of my own, and it's like, "Oh no, honey, I do. I definitely do. It's just I don't usually give myself excuses to lean into them." However, I'm grateful for those people because here's the deal. It's kind of like the scene from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone with the Mirror of Erised. Harry got the stone out of it because he didn't want to use it. He just wanted to protect it. Like he just wanted to have it in his possession to protect it. And a lot of times that's the way that power works in the world. When you want it, when you try to take it, it is very unsustainable. However, when you are just being you, when you are going with benevolent love, when you are accepting that you are significant enough to hold power, when you are not afraid to stand in your power, when you're not afraid that you have power to influence whatever way you want to look at it, then you have it and it is sustainable because you don't need it. And that is when you can get into spaces where you can explore your shadows in benevolent ways. And that increases your power because we are humans. We created an experience of shadow and light, not just light, not just shadow. It's not black and white. There's a whole spectrum between the two. All sorts of hues and rainbows, right? So, getting into that space, I'm grateful for the people that have brought me into that space because I used to be in a space where I too was like, if I if I am myself, if I show my shadows, if I do this stuff, then people won't like me or they'll abandon me either because they're afraid or don't understand or because me being this way triggers them or because they're afraid of what other people might think. I'm actually really grateful too to all the people that I did call friends that did not help and had, you know, had their own snarky remarks in their minds or that they talked about other people, that there was only certain specific kinds of help from specific people who have been through shit. People who actually believe you when you say you need help, right? Because The people who sat in their shadows like that, for one thing, I was already in a place of knowing that I could, I mean, we could do anything. Me and my oldest and my youngest, even though he's not with us specifically. Like, so it was not a need, right? That's why it came so instantly. Once I asked for it, once I got past that point of what might happen if I speak the truth. And so now we're getting into the space where that energy is ending. It's well, it's not ending. It's shifting because energy never dies. And the choice is given again, right? We're often given many choices. It's like I could continue on with this. I could actually continue on with the pirating very righteously, but I don't want to. I much prefer to go the other way. Though now I can move forward and speak what is on my mind and my heart. Now I have the liberation that I can tell my story with people acting as they have in the story. And that can help other people heal as well. Because it's funny, it brings me back to the scene where with Ariel and Ursula. Like, Ursula did not want Ariel's voice so she could sing. Voice is powerful, right? When you let other people take your voice because they don't want their shadows to be seen, that is how you are disempowered. When you try to speak through others, you are disempowered. When you try to hide your shadows, you are disempowered. And when you hide from your light, you are disempowered, right? And so I was thinking about it, and it's like, you know what? I would do one more love letter to my Cabbit and let it be my releasing of of this season of things and embracing of the next season of things that is going to be, let's just put it this way, it's going to be so magical that people are going to be like, whoa, and they're already like, whoa. I'm quite amazed at, like, I don't know, like the amount of people that are looking at everything that I'm going through and they're like amazed at how grounded I am, that I'm not like off my rocker, which I get. Like, I'm not unaware of what it seems like. Somebody's messed with my ignition again. Anyways, I'm not aware. I'm not unaware, because most people in a position like I'm in would be crying and having a really hard emotional time, and understandably, like, it's a lot of stuff to happen all at once. Though, when this journey started, an elder blessed me with Hawk. And that taught me to see things from a higher perspective. And that taught me about the spiral cycles. And that taught me about loops and portals and various different things that I already knew bits and pieces about before, but did not recognize that I did. And so, I mean, yeah, there can be all sorts of things going on right now, though those are in the moment. Like, listen to Eckhart Tolle, right? The Power of Now. And listen to Abraham, listen to Tony Robbins, listen to your favorite ascended masters. They all talk about it. The things that happen in the now are often simply indications of things shifting. And one of my favorite quotes that keeps popping up is, oftentimes when it feels like everything is falling apart, it's actually that everything is falling together. It's coming together, right? And I wholeheartedly believe that. What you believe is true, which is why, like, even as shit happens, even in moments where I need help and nobody is answering or nobody's in that place because they're like, well, I mean, she seems like she's getting help and she doesn't seem like she's really emotional, so how could it be that bad? Like, even in those moments, I know that that means things are coming together, right? And the beautiful thing is, too, one of the things that I wanted, that I'd been working on in several ceremonies, was being able to be myself. Now, the irony is, I didn't think about that in the sense of being all of who I am, shadow and light. I thought about it as, it's funny because I'm processing it now. I thought about it as more like only letting my good side show and having that lift me up and having that be the thing. But really, I mean, authenticity is something that I called in a lot. And if you're being authentic, you're being wholeheartedly human, right? And I love that, because now, not only not only can I be fully authentic in all of who I am, I also embracing things when they fall apart and come together, fall apart and come together, like all of life happens. I get to explore being who I am without being under anyone's thumb. And I get this really cool story of overcoming anything tossed my way. Like that's something that I said on my Facebook too. Like, you can throw anything my way that you want. At this point, I'm going to look at it as it makes my story even more awesome. You want to sue me? Go for it. You want to try to throw some energy my way? Go for it. Like you want to try to keep me from my kids? I'm not saying go for it though. It's not going to make my story any worse. Anyways, I'm just looking at it like no matter what happens, my story is legendary. And that's something that I asked for intentionally. And I didn't picture it happening quite this way, but why not embrace it? And look at all the good that so many different people did in the world when they were doing benevolent work in the world, and the world tried to shit on them. In our history books, they were empowered by that. They did not let the struggle prevent them from doing good, and neither will I. And I'm also thinking about it's very interesting to have watched the evolution of pirates around me. The most interesting thing too is like one of the like we look at the shadow that people want to go with, like that I'm a know-it-all, right? Well, if I'm a know-it-all, then you have to imagine that I already saw all the cycles. I already like people who are in loops of negativity are easily predictable, and I'm also aware of how like insidiously even my own former family got about like trying to be sneaky in order, like here's the thing, if you're righteous in what you're doing, there's no reason to be sneaky, like flat out. And that's what I've been doing. Like, I've not been sneaky. I've been very fucking obvious about everything that I'm doing. And that includes that I put the information out on multiple forms of social media. And even in my request for assistance in escaping, that was weird. Even in my, in escaping the domestically abusive situation going on with my own former family, in the video, I literally said that I knew that there were people that were going to attempt to sabotage an attempt to escape. And think about it, like, people could have, like, there was already people watching for it's my DM's pirates, basically. They were already watching. And think about the kind of person that it takes to pick out someone like me or otherwise saying, I need help, I need your support, this is not a good situation. For them to take that and twist that into just making up a bunch of bullshit and like trying to send it to my former family to attempt to get themselves either out of trouble or to try to turn a family that was already against me. Like, that half of my point in like talking about my childhood and all the shit that they do is like they were never on my side to begin with. I mean, it didn't matter what I did. My own kids watched me do all sorts of things, including save my family, take them to the hospital, doing housework and chore work when they, at night and when they weren't around, and doing all sorts of fucking shit that there was definitely reciprocating at least as much as the energy that they were putting in. And like for somebody to take that and suggest, like, they're telling people that I'm psycho. Like, yeah, I think that's probably more a projection, but whatever. But like, think about that. Like, if you were to see somebody asking for help and you were to then like go to other people and try to sabotage that, what kind of person would you be to do that, right? And the other thing is, they're attempting to spread things around as if I didn't say that I put stuff on multiple social medias. No, I said that I did. I've talked about it in multiple videos and on posts. Like, I've literally said it. I've not hidden anything. And also, it leans to Cabbit Trail back. It leans into the whole if you really believe that I'm a know-it-all, and you really like you really believe that I'm such a strong witchy person, that like even though I never would put spells on people, like if you believe that I could and that I'm that powerful and strong, well, guess what? I am that smart and I am that strong. And this, like, Facebook and YouTube ain't it either. Like, I put stuff on other things because I'm well aware that people could try to shut down any number of my social medias. And then what happens to that trail of evidence that I've had? So, yeah, I am very smart. And I have protected myself and my kids and my DM because I know that he didn't create this shit. Anyways, it's been interesting to consider the progression of things. Like, and to observe the projections, like just from like a psychology perspective, the projections were that all women and all men are the same, especially with pirates. Like they were conditioned to believe that, and that's the way that they see things. And even if you, I want to say confront them, but that's not quite the right word. Even if you call attention to the fact that they're doing that, they'll immediately say, no, 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 I don't. And that's how you can tell that they do. Like, people tend to get triggered more by truth than they do by if you're making shit up, especially when they're in loops like that. And to see it have gone from like they all assumed that, oh, I don't know, I think that Rudy broke my heart really, really bad, and that somehow I just like went off my rocker and was like, no, like you, you didn't even ask your therapist. Like, no, it was a beautiful idea to go on that trip and to stand up for myself and to lean into self-righteous indignation in benevolent ways and to continue my own healing path and becoming more whole, becoming more authentic. Like, those are actually psychologically very healthy things to do. And to watch everyone else try to go to this place of suggesting that I'm unstable. Hat 555 on a license plate, which means benevolent change is coming. Anyways, for them to like take it to that place, like attempting to suggest that I'm gonna like harass somebody or do something illegal or do shit like that, and then for them to see that I'm not, and then to see that actually they're the ones who are doing things that are very illegal and immoral. And I mean, if we're going to lean into the whole politeness thing, extremely impolite. And you can tell that they're not psychologically or spiritually healthy because they won't even get into a space of going, okay, yes, I contributed to this, or I manifested this, or this is my shadow too. Like, if they can't do that, that's where it is unhealthy on every level, right? And then to get to the point to where it's an attempt to, oh, I don't even know, like an attempt to suggest that they're perfect, to try to get together with each other and be like, well, Amanda's airing dirty laundry, which, I love that that's the phrase because that is much more accurate to what I've been doing in standing up for myself and my kids and those that I care about. Like, yeah, I am airing dirty laundry because there's nothing illegal about that. And also, if people wanted to have a better role in the story of life, then they should have been taking care of their own laundry rather than leaving it sitting on dining room tables and beds and shit like that. Because you know what happens when dirty laundry sits? It starts to smell really shitty. It starts to become very obvious to other people. And over time, it gets moldy. It creates fucking problems, right? So to air dirty laundry is not only accurate in that sense, but it is healthy. Like, you don't leave dirty laundry sitting around. This is actually something that my DM Rudy got on me about, and it's funny because it was more of a literal thing. But metaphorically, magically, energetically speaking, think about it. Like, you should not leave dirty laundry sitting around. You should clean it up. You should do your fucking laundry. You should put it away in a manner of your choosing to where it is clean, right? Because otherwise, you're going to have people that see it and the smell will become so pungent that even if somebody didn't speak about it, it's still very apparent. And really, of the stuff that I talked about in the dirty laundry that I aired, it was actually common information just people just didn't sit at the same table together and talk about it. But this is shit that they've all been saying about each other, that they've experienced, that I've experienced, all of it. And there's nothing illegal about talking about common information or airing dirty laundry. And it is far less negative than what the people that I talked about have been doing. And I have no problem with owning my shadows in it. I have no problem with looking back and going, yeah, you know what? Former versions of me did some fucked up shit too. Still wasn't as bad as any of the fucked up shit that everybody else was doing, but I don't need to shift it like that. That is simply an acknowledgement of the truth of it. Like, what reason do I have to be worried about anything I have done? I don't. I don't. And that's why they're trying so hard to suggest that I'm lying or crazy or unstable or shit like that, because that's how they feel. And to have somebody who is clearly an individual, clearly is making choices that are healthy and that are righteous, it makes sense that it would trigger every bit of their shadows thinking about how they're not doing that, and how now they run out of time to sit in that comfort zone of those shadows. And I know that it is not just me. I know that part of the reason that me standing in my light and in my shadow as well is so intimidating is because Big Daddy Saturn is already doing his work in rectifying things and leading people to their light by having them recognize their shadows in inescapable ways, right? I'm just one piece of a greater whole. And as a Capricorn, the social architect, I recognize that more than others. It's part of why I can act even when it feels like I'm alone and know that I am not alone, and knowing that in the moments when my walk is solo, that spirit is leading me to others who are also having faith and doing the same. And, being a Capricorn, one of the greatest lessons is time reveals all. And your best, the most practical, the most loving, the most kind, and the healthiest thing you can do is work on you and make decisions like based on, will I still be able to respect myself tomorrow, next week, next year if I make this decision? That's a beautiful way to look at how to make decisions. Not what will other people think? Not will this make me the most money? Not will I be alone or with others? Not any of that shit. Will you be able to respect yourself if you make that decision? And not based on what other people think is respect, you, on your core values. Because when you act in that space, you align with yourself. You come into union with your 4D self and 5D self and with spirit. And then time will reveal all. It always, always does. And the truth always comes out. Like, sometimes it takes a little longer because people like to hide from their shadows, but it always comes out. And that's where I'm excited, because I've been shown the spiral cycles. I've been shown what's going on, and it's like, oh, how do we put it? Like, the greater the pirates struggle in attempting to hold on to power, to disempower others, including me, like, that just shows how strongly Saturn and other beings are working with them and with me and with everyone else to rectify situations that basically they're generational karmic loops that they need to be healed and become whole. And I especially know that there's been so many lies and so much deceit and brainwashing going on, especially with my DM Rudy and what they're attempting to do with our youngest son Joey, who is with him, that, and really it's like you could probably get away with doing it with Rudy, because he is conscious enough that even in getting into a situation where he's been brainwashed and mistreated, that he had the chance to make an enlightened decision to do differently. And the codependence was still too strong, so he leaned into that, though that is for him to rectify for him. But lying to a child, especially like our little Joey, 10-year-old Joey, that's like It's like the scene in Harry Potter where they were saying that Voldemort was killing unicorns. You know what I mean? Like that's some shitty fucking karma right there. And even if Joey wouldn't be extremely pissed about all of that, Spirit is. And when that stuff comes to light, when Rudy Bug realizes what I was really saying, because I know that half the pirates are trying to suggest that I'm trying to like go after him for the age I was when we met and shit like that. And it's like, no, most of that was just me being a snarky asshole because I never let myself be in that space. That's one of my shadows. I can be very snarky and very critical. And I'm also a brat. Like, that was part of showing it. And it's like, I am the youngest of all of the adults among this, and also the most mature. And so they wanted me to continue being the most mature because I became the center hub of the wheel. I may not have done all the hand to hand things like that, but it was my energy and my benevolence and my maturity that everyone else was basing their actions on, like measuring everything on and coming to me for energy to be able to go and do things. Half of them didn't even realize that they were doing that, right? And because of that, pulling it back, it's going to pull in a lot more energy for me, and it's going to open up space for the truth to come in even more strongly. And then there will come a time when Spirit makes sure that my Rudy Bug gets to see what was actually said. And he's going to remember that he's already always known who I am. Even though I'm a new version of me, I'm still the same core me. I'm just getting better and better because I don't compete with anybody else. I compete with myself a little bit because I like to be the best version of me. And in order to do that, you must seek to grow at your own pace, in your own time, in your own ways. And those are going to be some glorious days. Especially because, here's the thing, pirates and potatoes tend to tattle on themselves. Especially when they feel like they cannot control other people's thoughts or actions, or when they feel like someone like me, who they have manifested. This is one of my favorite things is that I didn't ask for any of the power that I've currently been imbued with. Like, do I want my Ruby Bug? Yes. There was nothing ever in any part of our separation to where I ever said that I didn't want him, right? There was nothing in it that ever said that I would be done if he didn't make all the decisions that I wanted, because I've never been that kind of person. And like in the past, I was afraid to be somebody who was held above others, who was put on a pedestal, who was thought of as so good that you can't tell them because they'll tell on people, or that I'll judge them and shit like that. Like, y'all gave me that power. You copied me and then shat talked me, shit talked me to try to maintain your own power. Y'all did not speak the truth of me in moments when it would have made a fucking difference. You wanted to make me into someone like you, which I've never been and never will be. But the great thing is, I'm in a place where I recognize, you know what? While I may still be vastly insignificant because I am one individual, I also am extremely significant. And I do have a lot of power. And part of the reason is I don't seek it. And so everything that everybody's been manifesting with their fear, which is primarily that Rudy will wake up and drop their asses and come back to me, recognizing that I have been good most of this time. There is the irony. Like, what I wanted was for him to feel happy and healthy. What I wanted was at least a friendship with him because we have been best friends since the day we fucking met. Naturally. Do I want more? Yeah, hell, fuck yeah. Though I am not so selfish or conceited that I would even bother demanding that, putting that out there, wishing for that. I am the kind of person that I want him to want to be with me. And at any point in time that he doesn't want that, I don't need to make that happen. And so now, with everybody fearing that, I don't even know, like, there's so many different silly scenarios that either I would never do or that would only occur if they keep trying to take me out. Like, I swear, in my life, I've had more times that I've literally just been working on me, just being authentic, just doing my own thing, and actually doing quite a great deal of good in the world, that people have attempted to try to take me out. And it's like, I'm not even looking at you, or if I'm observing you, it's because you're putting yourself in the middle of my path, like, and I'm just trying to figure out how do I move forward through this? What's the lesson here so I can move on to the next one? It's interesting though, because the more people fear things, the more actively they put energy into blocking, denying, or resisting benevolent things, the more power they give to those things. That's something that I teach a great deal in any of my other teachings, is like, fear is an extremely powerful manifesting energy. It's not exactly sustainable because it's fear, right? You got to keep feeding it. And then when you get to a place to where you fed it and fed it and fed it and you're exhausted, and then you go into a different emotional space, or you get distracted by something else, because the human experience, even though we created shadow with it, it's to reach towards the light. You can't stay in either state permanently. And so the moment that it gets released, or that people feel like they've won or they've done things, that's the moment that they forget about everything that they were manifesting. And that's when everything that they were afraid of and everything that they worked hard to try to prevent or block starts to come in. And all it takes is about 30 seconds of forgetting about it for that to start happening. And then it builds from there. And I'm in a space where it's like, you know what? In the past, I would have been like, no, no, no. I'm not important enough to accept such power. And a lot of me's been worried because of past lives that I might abuse it. Though, you know what? I know me. I'm like hyper vigilant to make sure that even when I'm allowing myself to be bratty or piratey or anything, that I'm in a benevolent space about it, because that's who I am. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And so I know that I won't. And I know that spirit will help me find ways to not use the power, because there's no reason to use the power, simply to allow that power to help others. Because I don't need to do it. It's not something that I need to do. I am not the world's rescuer. I'm not in that codependent space anymore. And the world doesn't need rescuing. The world needs self-love and unconditional self-love. All right. So, somebody had a question. Mirage, are you still here? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but I like the link that it's Mirage, because in a different spelling, what is that, right? It's typically the illusion of an oasis, or the illusion of other people, or the hallucination of things. Anyways, if I don't hear from you in about 30 seconds, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here, and whatever question you may have had, feel free to put it in the comments below, and assuming that it is respectful and that Spirit says it's acceptable to give you an answer, I will do so. As for everyone else, thank you for listening to my ramblings. I'm looking forward to when my Cabbit gets on these videos, because I know the pirates, and they're just looking at the titles of the videos and going, see, she's so obsessed. But if you listen to the videos, most of the time I'm talking about myself. And I know that is going to make him laugh. Maybe not right away, but eventually he's going to look at them and go, see, this is why she's my woman. This is why she's my divine feminine. Only she would do something like that and be bratty like that and name something like that for me, just to brat the pirates, and then be sitting there talking about herself. And shit that's going on all around. So, I love you all. I'll be doing more regular videos like I was doing. And I've got some new series that are coming in, including, I already started one. I'm going to do some more. It's called Cuss You Back In. I'm talking about various different subjects. I'm going to do the zodiacs. I'm going to do parenting stuff and things like that. So rather than cussing people out, I'm going to cuss you back in. So until then, happy trails, and I will see you soon.